All right, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the 2-Meter Crew Anti-Net. My name is Nick, call signs KN6DAL, and I will be tonight's coordinator. Very first and foremost, we want to just take a minute to thank the owners and supporters of the W6VVR repeater and the Vaca Valley Radio Club. Also, a big thanks to the Freestar Network for the use of their repeaters and digital connections. And a big thanks to Mike, WG5EEK, Greg, KN6KIE, and Brian, KK6BXP, for the continued networking efforts on their behalf. And before we get going, if there's any priority traffic, you can always break into the repeater at any time by saying break, break in your call sign. And I love the shirt, Jim. If there is any priority traffic at this time, come on in now and let us know. That's so awesome. I need one.
You'll get one.
All right, nothing being heard. The 2-Meter Crew is not an actual club. We're just a group of hams that are learning and enjoying all things ham related. There's no dues or fees to be a 2-Meter Crew member. For more information, you can visit our Facebook at 2MC or join our Discord group. You can also check out our website at www.2metercrew.net for more information. And this is an open net. Everyone is welcome, so please feel free to join in if you'd like. The 2-Meter Crew meets every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, which is 3 a.m. UTC, on the W6VVR repeater, which is 145.470 with a negative offset of 600 kilohertz and a PL tone of 127.3. There's also multiple digital connections that you can reach us through. Echolink at W6VVR-R. All star nodes connected are 51094 and 512342. DMR talk group 3174117, YSF reflector 50462, and Freestar is linked through 2195 and 53377 for their all-star links. If you need more information on how to connect, you can check us out at Northwest Ham Shack, also being live streamed here. And at the bottom, there is a scroll which has all of those connections for you to get connected. All right, before we get rolling on our topic, let's just see if there's anybody else out there on the repeaters or through any of the digital connections that wants to check in and say hi. Is there anyone out that'd like to check in now? Come on in. All right, and I got a notice in YouTube here that the YSF is not connected. Give me a few minutes, and I'll get that activated. Just bear with me. Once we move into the topic, we'll have that connection linked. So sorry about that. Any other guests, visitors, any new ham operators, anybody that just got their license, or anyone that's never checked in with us before, you're welcome to come on in and tell us a little bit about yourself, or just say hi. If there's anybody else out there, come on in now.
Kilo 6 Alpha November.
Kilo 6 Alpha November. You sound fantastic. How are you doing tonight?
Doing well. Thanks for putting on the net tonight. I'm a guest that just stopped in to see what it was all about, and I am a member of the Facebook group, so one of those 2-meter simplex kind of guys, most of the time anyway. So back to you. This is Kilo 6 Alpha November, Mike in Valley Springs, California.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. I too am a big fan of 2-meter simplex, and I kind of got roped into all this digital stuff, and it's been a hoot. It's been a lot of fun. So, but my heart definitely is still pulled in the direction of 2-meter simplex and HF and all of the old analog modes. So, for everything out there with ham radio, there's always something for someone to connect with and enjoy. But I appreciate you coming in, Mike, and I hope you have a good night and enjoy. Is there anybody else out there that wants to chime in before we get started on our topic? Was it SBG? I didn't get it. All right, I got a partial call sign there. Sorry, there was a little bit of scratch. It sounds like you might be coming in through the W6 VVR repeater. I got KN6. Can you come again one more time with your call?
Kilo November 6, Foxtrot Zulu, Mark in Rancho Cordova.
And just like that, it cleared up. You sounded really good there. Appreciate you checking in, Mark. And is there anybody else out there that wants to check in?
This is Kilo November 6, Mike India Oscar in Vacaville.
KI6MIO, thanks for checking in. How you doing this evening?
Just fine. This is KN6MIL.
All right, Kilo November 6 MIO. I got it jotted down correctly there. Thank you. Anybody else that wants to check in?
Yeah, this is Kilo November 6, Kilo India Echo from Vacaville. This is Greg.
Well, good evening, Greg. I think you might have missed the Zoom link. You need to get your booty into the Zoom chat and say hi. You probably don't even have a computer up anymore. I don't know. But it's good to hear from you, man. How are you doing tonight?
The gang. I'm doing well. I'm just doing some packing tonight. I had to do. We're getting ready to go, so needed to get at it. But I'm definitely listening to you guys. Just wanted to check in. Kilo November 6, Kilo in the Echoes.
All right, awesome. Thanks, Greg. Any other stations out there want to check in before we move on to our topic? All right, nothing being heard. And quick update, Mike posted in the Mike WG5EK posted in our YouTube chat that YSF reflector No, DMR reflector 3149964 and YSF reflector WG5EEK room 24033 is linked right now. So if you can't get in through mine, the 50462, you can jump on YSF through 24033 currently, and we should have that other reflector back up and running here in just a few moments. And with that, I'm going to pass it over for tonight's topic to Jim, KJ6FNP. You can go ahead and take it away, Jim.
Really? Oh, yeah. Okay. Just kidding. I know. I'm ready. I really am. Hey, this is Jim, KJ6FNP, coming to you via Zoom, via YouTube, via the radio, and from Antioch, California. So I want to share a little bit of info. First of all, that is related to what we're going to talk about tonight, is that we currently have a person who's been missing for, I think, maybe 6 days now. I think I found out about it yesterday, in Yosemite Park, and nobody's heard from him. The guy's National Guard reservist. Some people have made some comments that know him. He's an avid camper. He grew up around Yosemite. And so, but the guy's missing. And so they got some crews out there looking for this guy right now. And since we're going to be talking about lost and found, and I don't mean the little bin at school where you go find your sweater or your lunchbox that you left. I'm talking about being lost and getting found. And so I'm going to throw just a very rudimentary document up on the screen for us to look at, and you tell me if it's readable. Can you see that okay?
I can read it good, but I'm checking to see. Yeah, I think YouTube's got it. They can see it. KN6DAL.
Okay. Thank you. All right, Nick, thanks very much for confirming that. So this is just a brief thing. I'm not going to read it to you verbatim. I think that's rude. But it's basically about where this wilderness protocol kind of developed. It was proposed through QST magazine by this guy, William Alsop, amateur out of Oakland, California. Eventually turned into an article that was published in QST magazine, August 1995 issue. It was on page 101. And so basically talks about people that go out into the wilderness who are amateur radio operators, go out with their handheld radios. Sometimes they go out with something a little bit bigger, doesn't really matter, but they go out with their radios, and while they're out there, particularly if they get lost, or if they just want to know if others are out there, they can tune their radio up to one of these frequencies that's listed down here. A lot of people use VHF handhelds, so that would be the national calling frequency of 146.52. And then the UHF one is 446.00. There are also frequencies listed for 6 meters to, 2.25, 1.25 meters, and I don't know what the 1294.50 megahertz. Nonetheless, there's a list of frequencies for you to tune your radio to while you're out there. And then typically the way this goes is at 7 a.m., starting at 7 a.m. in the morning, every 3 hours, you turn on your radio and listen for 5 minutes and transmit, just say something about your location, even if you're not lost, just to let people know that you're there, that might be lost and might be doing the same thing listening. And that's the idea here, is that as hikers are out, if they've got an amateur radio license and they're carrying their ham radio with them and they're listening at the same time, they may hear you and you may hear them, because they would effectively be doing a similar kind of thing. So that's the general idea of this wilderness protocol. And it's really for lost and found. If you're lost, you would use this protocol to listen for other radio operators or radio transmissions, as well as to transmit that you're lost, and so say something. So the question comes up a lot with regards to wilderness protocol. Well, why do we do it that way? How did that get structured? Because it never gets explained. I've seen so many presentations on the Wilderness Protocol, but there is a reason. And the reason is that these radios have batteries. And depending on where you are, you may or may not, even if you have a solar charger, you may or may not be able to charge it. If you're down in a valley, if you're in a thick forest, you could be anywhere. If you're out in the middle of the desert, okay, you probably have plenty of sun for that. But, keep in mind, you're trying to preserve your battery for real actual operations of your radio. So the only recommendation that I have down in the orange text at the bottom of this page is that I would go 5 minutes before the hour through 5 minutes after, and probably transmit right at that 5 minutes before, on the hour, and at that 5 minutes after. And here's why. My watch may not be exactly synced up. In fact, I know it's not, because I have it 3 minutes fast deliberately, with your watch. Now I would mentally, subtract the 3 minutes so I know that the right time is, but people's watches drift and they don't know it. So that you just open up this small window of time that you're listening, and you make those 3 short transmissions to just get out on the airwaves. And if others can hear you, then you can start a conversation. Then it's reasonable to leave your battery on. What if you're not the person that's lost, and then the person that's lost gets a hold of you? They hear you and they call back to you. Perfect. That's the other side of the Wilderness Protocol. It's not just for when you're lost. It's you could be helping somebody else be found. And so it's really a two-way street. So it's just keep in mind, it's not just because you're lost. You're out there in the wilderness too. You might be able to help somebody else. And these little slide looking things, which are actually images stuck in a Word document, are from a presentation that I saw 3 days ago, and on the W6EK Sierra Foothills Radio Club meeting. And so I just screenshotted them and used them. They were supposed to put the files up there, but I take screenshots of everything so I don't forget stuff. So some of this is regurgitating what I already said. But if you think about it, in the wilderness, repeaters only go so far. And depending on what part or what kind of terrain you're in, repeaters go very little distance. If you're especially down deep in a valley somewhere, even if you're on a mountain, but you're on, the side where there just doesn't happen to be a lot of repeaters. So you may not be able to get a hold of a repeater to announce your presence or to get help. So this is something that you should do all the time. So anytime I leave the house, I take off with my little handy dandy radio, and it's in my backpack. I drove to Sacramento yesterday and back. It goes with me. I keep it on in the car. I keep it on the charger, and that's fine. But that's not the wilderness, but it's still something that I do. It's useful. Yeah. Anyway, so I'm sorry. I'm getting incident alerts for work, but I'm going to finish this first. They can
Can you guys disconnect the BAM from your network, please?
Go ahead.
The 43944 reflector. Did not give anybody permission to do that, and you're fouling up my network. We were working on something. Disconnect us.
I don't have a digital connection to him at all. I have nothing digitally connected. We might check with Connor and see if he does, maybe.
I've got nothing either.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Go ahead and carry on, Jim.
Okay. Okay, so there's that. Here's basically what I walked through earlier. Here's how to use it. Monitor every 3 hours from 7 o'clock till 7 p.m. So 7, 10, 1 o'clock, 4 o'clock, and 7 o'clock again. And remember, you might bring your cell phone It's probably not going to work if you're really out in the wilderness. Cell towers don't go very far at all. Keep in mind of that. There's some other ideas here, some general tips that are useful. So if you have a radio that can listen to 2 different frequencies at the same time, you could always have your 14652. So if you're walking with your radio and it's on all the time, then that's great. You can just kind of monitor. Talking about downloading an offline map for your mobile phone, which is fine until it runs out of battery. So same as your radio, keep your mobile phone off unless you really need it. Preserve your energy in your devices, particularly if you have no way to charge them. But it's a good idea. What about a GPS device? You can have that. That can be helpful. They don't chew up a ton of energy, but same thing. Turn it off when you're not using it. And here's a couple of images real quick I wanted to show you. And why am I showing you direction finding devices? It's because this is something that somebody might use, or carry with them. This is very small. You can see this little handy-talkie with this little circuit board and the little bow tie antenna on there and a 9-volt battery. That's easy to pack away. And that circuit makes those 2 pieces of the antenna go slightly out of phase. And so it can actually tell you much more accurately if somebody, when you're walking away, it kind of does a Doppler type of a thing. When you're walking away, there's a tone that comes out of your radio. And so you'll know if you're moving away from it or forward to it. Whereas normally you can't on an antenna like this. You don't know until you get really far. And this thing's called a handy finder. W2VX designed it. He has 2 or 3 people on his. It's something they're just doing to do because it's fun, but it's really cool. And so I'm going to get one of them because I just think it's neat. Down in the lower right, there's a guy with one of the famous tape measure Yagis that you can use for direction finding. So if I'm looking for you, I might be carrying some of these things. And if you go out in the wilderness and you want to, and you're willing to pack a little extra stuff, you might be able to help somebody else out that's stuck out there and get a bead on where they are, because they're going to say, I'm by a tree. Okay, cool. Well, we're in the middle of some national forest, so I'm by a tree as well. How about a direction? Other recommendations are to bring a good old fashioned compass, because it doesn't need batteries. All right. If you want to learn how to use a compass, you could go on the internet and find a bazillion websites that describe that really well. Excuse me. I would recommend attending a class, and I know that REI has a class. I've attended it twice. It's a very good class. I learned compass navigation when I was in the Navy, but that was almost 30 years ago when I got out. So I didn't use the skill and keep up on it. So something to recommend if you want to learn, land navigation without electronics. I highly recommend just taking a class about how to read a map, and particularly, good maps, and get a good compass and go to a class and learn how to use that. That can get you out of a whole lot of trouble if you become lost. It also helps for you to find other people based on their description of maybe where they see the sun. And you can look at that and figure that out. And that's about all I got, Nick. Actually, I'm going to have to go find out what these are about for work, because I work for a hospital and patients need care 24/7. So I'm going to step away. I'm just going to go on mute and shut off my video, but carry the torch.
No problem. Hey, thanks a lot, Jim, for coming in with that. I appreciate it. That's a lot of good information. And I think what we'll do is we'll see if there's anybody else out there that wants to comment on that, and then we will turn it over to Zoom, because it sounds like we might be linked up to a different repeater system. And I looked at that YSF gateway there, and it's nothing on our end. It's something else that is connected. So with that, we'll see if there's anybody else that wants to comment on that, and then we'll turn it over to our Zoom chat and keep it going. So any final words on the digital protocol that wants to come in? Come on in now. Jim, there was one question in YouTube, and I'll read it out to you. It says there's a percentage of folks that are out in the wilderness that aren't ham radio operators. And so for those folks, a lot of them may have like GMRS license, or they just run FRS. Is there a GMRS or FRS channel that this protocol would work on?
I don't know of any. I haven't seen anything that's been published or advertised as, go on this channel for those types of radio modes. So I don't know. There might very well be, but I have not seen it. What I would recommend is bring those radios anyway. Take them with you if that's all you've got. I would really encourage people to get their amateur radio license, because the entry point license, the technician license, and I'm back because the incident is at work is that the emergency department needs extra nurses, and I'm not a nurse. I don't know how I ended up on that list, but thanks for the invite. Not going to go. Anyway, so bring those radios and try to use them if you want to, but I really encourage you to get your amateur radio license. The technician level one is not really a difficult test. There's not a lot of deep technology stuff in it. It's fairly straightforward. There's some good study guides, and just do it and get it done, because it'll be worth it, because this is an established thing that is widely known. You saw how long ago it was, 1995, when the article got published recommending this protocol. So it's not that difficult to get the license. It's totally worth it, and you will move yourself into a whole new community of people. Unless you're a hermit and you don't like people, then don't do it. But otherwise, get your license. It's okay. And there's lots of people that will help you along the way and even after, and answer every single question. These people are called Elmers. I don't see it transmitting on VVR.
It is now. I think I timed it out. I'm kicking it back on.
No problem.
Right.
I'm watching the S meter on my radio, but I got it turned all the way down, so I can tell if it drops.
Yeah. This is Nick KN60AL. Speaking of that, the repeater timer. So it's not even on for. The W6 VVR doesn't have a repeater timer, right? Yeah, it's really long, right?
Right.
But I have all my radios set now to 3 minutes, so it just automatically kicks them off, right? And that's to avoid some of the other connections, especially on the YSF side and on the Freestar side. So they have a lot of links to different repeaters and stuff like that are on timers, and it can kind of go crazy and cause different problems. So that's the whole point, in kind of just like unkeying and stuff. There was also another comment, Rai 469. Some say channel 14, some areas say 20. I read another that said Disneyland is on channel 9. So,
oh, cool. So if you get lost in Disneyland, you know what to do.
Yeah, there you go. If you're if you're in Disneyland, switch to channel 9.
Right. Yeah. So I think the reason that it got established with amateur radio is because it's a huge community. Also, 1995 FRS and GMRS didn't really exist. So that's probably why there's nothing so, specific or, an agreed upon protocol with regards to that. But there's no reason that somebody can't recommend it and put it out there and try and propagate that. Get the joke? Radios propagate. That's what I do. I got you right when you were drinking. Sorry. Anyway, so but that's something it's worth pursuing. I think it's a good idea because I think there's a lot of people that use those radios for a variety. You know, they go on camping trips and they go on a little day hike. Well, a little day hike can turn into a complete disaster. You know,
Yep.
it's not hard. It's happened. It's happened to me.
No,
Um,
you're absolutely right. KN60AL. You know, I had an experience where I was out hunting once, and I don't want to say I got lost, but I got lost to the point where it took me 2.5 hours or better to find my way back to where I needed to be, and just that amount of time is enough to. I mean, it really does invoke sheer panic when you find yourself in a situation where you have no bearing on where you're at, you don't know what direction you're supposed to be headed. And one of the things that taught me was always pay attention not just to where you're going to, but where you're coming from, and that way you always kind of have a track back to, you know, what looks familiar on your way back. Because if you don't have any bearing on where you're headed and where you came from, things can look identical miles and miles away, and it can be a really scary experience. And to touch on those radios, you know, I have a shelf full of FRS radios, and my girls take them when we go places, and we, you know, talk back and forth. We go on little hikes with the kids, and we'll give them each a radio and let them kind of go a little further away from each other and stuff like that, and just talk back and forth. And I'm kind of trying to train them young, so. But not only are they fun, but it can be a really useful tool later on down the road for them.
yeah, that's a good idea. I like that. My kids are all grown, but I do have a 9-year-old granddaughter that I can, you know, I'm trying to get her to come in and, you know, try the radio out a little bit, but she's not ready yet.
Yeah,
Doesn't want to talk to random people.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
What do you mean you don't want to talk to total strangers? Yeah, and
About gas and weather.
yeah,
Right.
the price of gas and the temperature it is right now. That comment actually on the channel 14, 20, and then 9 in Disneyland was from Ryan W7 N7WAA. He's a friend from up here in this area, and I didn't want to oust his call sign until he posted it. But yeah, it's we're actually getting ready to. We're going to be going on a little hike this weekend, so that'll be a lot of fun. And maybe we'll practice a little bit more protocol of just getting on the air and making sure we're, you know, letting people know where we're at. But yeah, Connor, you have anything you want to add on that before we move over into Zoom?
On exactly what? Because I had the mute for a minute.
Oh, just on the digital protocol, or anything else you want to talk about?
Wilderness protocol.
Wilderness protocol.
Wilderness protocol.
Yeah, carry a whistle wherever you go. I mean, it sounds stupid, but I carry one on my keychain with my car keys, and I always have one in my bag. If that's my tech, my tech bag or whatever bag I got on me for whatever I'm doing, I always have some type of whistle, and they're the really high pitched ones. I don't even know. I don't know where my keys are at, but those are always super helpful. Especially like if your radio goes down or whatever the situation is, you can just blow your whistle, and most people will hear that and go, hey. And if you blow it 3 times, most people kind of know. You can do SOS with it, whatever you want to do, but like, I don't know, a lot of like, sounds weird, but like school camps and stuff like that, when you have a 3 whistle blast or air horn blast, most of the time it means it's like an emergency or something like that. So either SOS, which is, you know, everybody kind of knows SOS, or, you know, just 3 times, or just continuously trying to get people's attention wherever you're located. It's a smart way to go, because sound travels really far if RF isn't working for you. So that's a good one. And if you're at night having a flashlight, hopefully you don't plan on getting stuck overnight, but, you know, a flashlight or a phone flashlight, they're out there, and those can be useful because most of the time you're going to have, like Jim's beautiful background here, you're going to have people in those rental aircraft and stuff like that going around, touring the area, seeing all that type of stuff. So that's definitely a useful one. I wouldn't say at night you would see those rental aircraft up in the air, but it's definitely a nice thing to have. And a mirror. That's another one, having a mirror. You can shine a light or use the sun. And yeah, those are all kind of like caveman brain, sticks and stones type methods, but they work if your radio isn't working. K7CBL Freddy.
Yeah, that's good. This is KJ6FMP, by the way. Those are good tips too, Connor, because I do have a whistle. I've got one in my bag. Don't have one on my person, but maybe I will consider. My keys and everything are getting pretty bulky, but nonetheless, good idea. There you go. Yeah, that's not that bad. That's good. I could do that. I'm gonna go get one tomorrow. Yeah, nice. I probably wouldn't hear it.
Yeah, it would hurt everybody in the house's ears.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
it's just bad.
Yeah, I think, and Nick, your experience is a good illustration that, you just kind of got twisted around and then it's very, I mean, your stomach sinks, your pulse goes up a little bit. You get the pre-panic feeling when you realize that, oh, I'm no idea where I am.
Yeah, it can be a really scary thing. In fact, I have another situation. I'll tell you about that after we drop the repeaters because it's a little bit more long-winded, but it's interesting nonetheless. I do want to take just a second and see if there's anybody out there that wants to either just check in and say hi or has anything they want to add to the topic, or maybe an experience that they've had with being in a situation out in the wilderness. Maybe they've been lost, or they've helped find somebody who was lost or couldn't find their way. If there's anybody else out there that wants to check in before we close it down, come on in.
Guys checking. I was just cruising the airwaves, and I heard you guys on. This is Kilo 6 Bravo Kilo Lima, Brian in South Sac. I haven't had any situations where I've actually been able to help someone out in the wilderness that was lost, but I look forward to it. As these days, every time when I'm out in the wilderness, I seem to bring a radio with me just for backup purposes. But anyways, I was just checking in, browsing through K6BKL.
Yeah, thanks for that, K6BKL. That's a great point, and that's a point that I think Jim was saying earlier on. About it's not just about you, and whether you're lost. Sometimes it's about you being available for another person. If they might be lost and they hear you, then they know that there's somebody they can contact. So, yeah, I think it's a great way to just try to protect each other and keep everybody safe when we go out and do the things that we love to do. And it kind of takes a community to do that. So super cool. Appreciate you checking in. Anybody else out there that wants to chime in before we shut it down? All right, nothing being heard. We're going to switch over and just kind of hang out in the Zoom channel. I posted a link in the YouTube chat if anybody wants to join in. It's open for anybody. If you have any questions or you want to just come in and maybe share some experience, you're welcome to come in anytime. And with that, I will say thanks to everybody for all the help with the digital connections, and we will turn the repeaters back to their normal operation. And thank you, and have a good night.
Boy.
All right, I have to remember.
Disconnect Nick.
Yeah. Or I'll leave. Did I ever tell you the story? I don't really care.
Yeah, where you left Freestar Connect.
I left the connection to Freestar, and then out of sheer unluckiness for me, my DMR started looping, and so when you're so when you have an issue with DMR, if you quick key or anything like that, it'll block you, right? So it'll block your DMR ID. So one of my DMR IDs was connected to Freestar in the middle of a net that they were having on the other side of the planet, and it started looping, so it kicked it out. And so anytime it would key up, it would try to key up my DMR, and it would come back. It would key back up and say blocked, and it just kept doing it over and over again. And so everybody involved in Freestar was like out of town at the time. Like all the people that work with there's two guys that do most of the digital framework for that, and they they were out of town. And so I got a call from one of the guys that was coordinating the net, and he's like, is there any way for you to remote in and kill this? And so I did, but yeah, for like 10 minutes it was just keen.
Oh my god.
Digital, man, digital. So I think that it was an AAN. I think I hear him on W6EK because I get on W6EK every morning at 7:30. They have a coffee break net. In fact, it's such an awesome net. I joined the club. Yeah, I'm 98 miles away from Auburn when they meet, but I don't care. I joined them. They're awesome. And so I wanted to do one other thing. I forgot to do it. Was what I do is I kind of stole this idea from what was his name? His call sign ends in EFF. He's on the daily noon net in Sacramento. But anyway, he would always announce all the national days when it was his turn to check in. And so I've been doing that now on all the nets. So I go to the 542 morning muster on Mount Diablo, W6CX. And then I go to the 610 net, same repeater. And then I take a pause and I get on W6EK at 7:30 in the morning before work really starts cranking up, and have a nice little chat on there. But I always say what the national day is. And if it's an evening net that I get on, I tell them the national day for tomorrow. So here's your national day for tomorrow. Tomorrow is National Play-Doh Day. It's National Guacamole Day, National Working Parents Day, Mayflower Day, National Step Family Day, National Cinnamon Raisin Bread Day, and last but not least, National Pawpaw Day. That's not grandpa. Pawpaw is a fruit. It's a native fruit to the eastern and southern parts of the United States. There you go. That's your national days. Have a great day.
Wow.
Wow, amazing.
You. Special.
Anyway, it's fun. The other day when I did it, one of the national days was National Chocolate Shake Day. Oh my God! So that net goes for 2.5 hours from 7:30 a.m. till 10 a.m. People come in and out on their coffee breaks. That's the idea, and everybody had an opinion about chocolate shakes. Anyway, it's fun. I love that. That club's got that net is fantastic. Ever since I got my Diamond X50 up and raised it up another 5 feet, so now it's like 40 feet in the air, which is, yeah, I'm sure Antioch loves it. I don't really care, but they do have rules, and I break them.
I got the 900 antenna up. It's yeah, that was a slow moment. I'm a bit tired today, and I put the antenna. I was telling Nick, I put the antenna up, and I ran the coax and all the, I did all of it, right? Got the connector on nice and tight, and I just grabbed my bucket and I was ready to head down off the roof. I was like, oh, I gotta weatherproof this connection. Well, it's up against a pole, so I can't quite get my tape roll, my coax seal around the coax. So I'm looking, I'm like, do I have any cold shrink, anything like that? So I ended up having to take all my work out, cut all the zip ties, remove the antenna off of its mast, tape it up, cover it with, I put electrical tape on the top of it, and just to kind of, that's like the skin coat, if you will, like that's the one that UV is going to damage and eventually kill rather than the coax seal. It's just a disposable layer pretty much. And then I remounted the whole thing and ran the coax. So now I've got, this is dedication to the anti-net. I've got, well, I can't pick it up now, but I've got like 10-15 feet here on the next to the desk of just LMR 240 that was coming off the roof. Of course, all my stuff interferes, but yeah, it's all off the roof, so I gotta put a connector on it and get it going. So
cool.
Yeah, trying to move a spool of coax with this on it didn't help. These are the silica gel snack packets that you get.
Oh yeah.
I bought a bag of them for all my 3D printing filament you just throw them in the bit. I use a 1 gallon Ziploc, throw the spool in, and then throw a couple of these in there, and try to get all the air out of the bag, and then seal it, and it's watertight. Nick, that might be something you want to look into.
Send me a link.
Filament. Okay, it's like $9 on Amazon for like 100 packets or something like that, and you just need to put 2 in a Ziploc with the spool. Boom, you're good to go. So, yeah, all fun. All fun.
We did this exercise, scuba diving, where you go under the water, and this was the story I was going to tell you. You go under the water, and you mark a spot where you start, and then using a compass and how many kicks you're going to take, you draw yourself a square, wherever you're going to go. And say you find out that you can go 30 feet in so many kicks, so you draw 30 by 30 square to come back, and then using your compass you have to figure out how to do a triangle and come back. And it's amazing how way off you are when you come back up to the surface, because ultimately your goal is to go back to the same spot you started at, right? And how it's so easy to get off, because when you a lot of times you don't have objects that you can look at and compare to where you are. Everything kind of looks the same, and so you have to rely on your compass where to know where you're heading and where you're going. And that's one thing that I found is when you get in, when you're in open hiking areas, like a lot of parts of Northern California are really open. And when you hike, you can see for a really long way. But when you get into like dense forest and stuff, a lot of things start to look identical. And that stump that you passed a mile back you might think you passed it again, and it might look eerily similar, but it could be a completely different area. And that was just kind of the only point with that.
There's something I do. I rarely go like off trail, right? Depending on where I'm at, but I carry arborists carry it. It's orange marking tape.
Yep.
And I keep not a long spool of it, but about 20 feet in there. And I can find a way to mark it if it's tied around a branch or something, right? Now let's just hope it's not the season where arborists are going into whatever park it is and thinning out trees or trying to get information regarding a tree or whatever the situation is. So there'll be nothing on the trees already, but you can mark it. And that if if you're like, hey, this is where I'm going, every half mile, take a bearing, mark, and then just pull the markers off when you come back if you're going the same direction back, because you don't want to leave pretty much plastic hanging off the sides of the trees, or even normal caution tape type of thing, or something to identify it as somewhere you've passed. It's a search and rescue technique that isn't used all that often because you have IR markers and you have chem lights and stuff like that, but it is helpful to have something like that around in your bag. Doesn't need to be a whole lot, but it's definitely a helpful thing to have.
Yeah, that's a good recommendation. I when I've gone hiking, I have a red and white diagonal striped about a 1 inch wide. It's just ribbon from freaking fabric store, and I just use that only because there is so much of that orange tape, and there's quite a bit of that kind of lime green tape out there too. Surveyors use it a lot also when you're out.
Yeah.
When I went up to my property in Modoc County, it's really, really, really remote. It's 22 miles from the lodge that is north of me in California Pines, and 1 mile radius all the way around my property. There's not a single person that lives there full time, and there's just a couple of ragtag cabins. So it's pretty far out there. And then I don't know how far it is to the first house that actually has a 12-month resident. It's pretty extreme out there. So going walking around, even on my property, which is only 1.5 acres, it's not big or anything. I got way off the, and there's no path. There's a road. You walk down under your property, and then you don't see another road for half a mile to a mile in any direction. It's easy to get discombobulated out there. And like Nick was saying, the things start to all look the same. There are a lot of trees. They're all very similar. It's not like there's a wide variety and you can say, oh, I remember that that pack of 3 cedars or whatever. That's hard to do, especially once you realize you're lost. Then if you realize you're lost, you're already in trouble because you weren't paying attention. And so, it happens. It happens.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but
For sure.
just walking in there prepared to just think you're going to get lost. Not like it's a self-fulfilling prophecy of your little hike or your jaunt wherever you're going, but just expect it because it can happen. And then if you've got the tools with you, some of that tape or ribbon, a compass, a flashlight, a whistle, an amateur radio, those kind of things, then you don't get so scared about it, right? And if you're marking your way in unfamiliar territory with those pieces of ribbon, then you got a fighting chance of getting yourself back out of there, right? So it's people talk about being a prepper and they're stockpiling all this crap in their house and stuff like that, but they're not thinking logically. I have a lot of people who ask me about that, and I think I've told you guys this before, is they tell me they want to brag about all this great stuff they're doing, and I bought this and I've got that and I've got this many months of spam or whatever. I'm like, that's cool. That's good. I've got a couple months.
Spam for X amount of months. That sounds fun.
I love spam, but so I'm sitting there and I just listen. I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool. That's interesting. Yeah, I never thought about that. Sometimes it means like you've got Kool-Aid. That's nice. I never thought about that. And I never would stockpile Kool-Aid. But, so then when they finally take a pause and they say, what do you think of that? I'm like, oh, that's cool. I got one question. How many fire extinguishers do you have in your home right now? And almost all the time, the answer is, I have one of those small ones in the kitchen, or I have one of those small ones in the garage. And I'm like, you are fully unprepared for the most likely disaster to happen inside your house. You need to stop talking to me about spam and Kool-Aid. Get your ass in your car, go down to Costco and buy 4 of the big bottles and one small bottle for every room in your home. Really? That's the answer. Really? Yeah, really. That's how you get your brain in the idea of expecting something bad to happen, right? Because that's a very likely thing to happen. I had it happen 2 years ago in my oven, and I blew through 3 small bottles and a big bottle to get it out. And I still called the fire department.
But you probably saved your whole house.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The reason I called the fire department was not because I wanted them to put it out, because I had it out.
You needed the insurance.
Well, that's the thing. If it touched off again and I ran out of bottles and I never called, my insurance policy is not going to cover that. They're going to say, did you call the fire department? I'm going to say, no, I had it out. They're going to say, oh, too bad. We're not forking out any money for you, sucker. So there's a lesson for you. But I called them and they came and they were impressed. And then you know what I did? My wife was baking Queen Amans. They're really absolutely delectable pastry that is just absolutely packed with butter. And that's what happened, was the butter oozed out over the top of the pan and dripped and splattered and hit the elements. And that's what touched off the fire. So I'm sitting on the ground and I'm coughing up all this stuff because I was breathing all that ganky powder. And I'm covered in it. I've got pictures of it, of me out there. I look like a ghost in powder. And so I'm sitting there and I've got the pan in front of me because the firefighter brought it out. He's like, well, I don't think these are any good. I'm like, what are you talking about? I literally did this, dusted it off, cracked it open and took a bite and ate it. And the firefighter's like, you might need some oxygen. I think you're having a problem. And he was joking. I said, no, you want a bite? Here you go. Take one, take them back to the firehouse. And then we all had a good laugh about it. But, because what else can you do at that point is laugh. The house didn't burn down. I'm happy. I can be an idiot at that point.
A little bit of damage on the drywall there, but that's pretty much it.
Not even that. It was just in the oven. Yeah, and the whole house had dust in it. In fact, we're still finding it. Like when you decide to move furniture around, you pull something out, and there's this little there's a little leg here, and right here is this little looks like a little snowdrift of the dust. Like even upstairs, it went everywhere. It goes, and it's so light, it goes everywhere.
Well, you're putting that much on it. You
Yeah.
know, it's like, what'd you say? 3 small bottles and 1 large. Yeah, that's a lot. It's
a crap ton.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Oh, hey, Dan, there's actually a couple really cool comments here. One is T1M TAM. I think I don't think that's actually a call sign. I think he's studying to get his call. But yeah. he had an experience where he I'm just gonna read it. It says, one time I went on a little adventure with my dad, and we found a girl who was sleeping on the ground, and she looked like she was about 10. So my dad woke her up and made sure she was okay, and it turned out that she had ran away from her home like a week earlier. So
wow.
I'd be interested to hear more about like how that story ended, or like did she get lost? Where was she? Kind of what happened. But and then Dan made a great comment of that he's checked in with ranger stations before, and curious if those organizations monitor ham bands. And ranger stations, that's another great one. They always have radio connectivity. I don't know for sure what they monitor, but it's always a good idea to look in your area and check. I do know I had an experience where we were all on a motorcycle ride over a mountain pass, and we had a friend of ours who was up front take a corner too hard and overshot the corner and just completely destroyed his bike and broke his collarbone really bad, and it was sticking up out of his arm, and so he couldn't move. And we were trying to call for help, and there was no cell phone service. But I knew that there was a ranger station about a mile and a half down, and we were able to finally get a car to stop for us, and we flagged him down and had him go to the ranger station, and that's how they were able to get an ambulance up to us. So
hey Nick, do you have a radio on your motorcycle yet?
No, I don't. But I mean, I always carry an HT with me usually. So.
You gotta get the. You gotta get one on the motorcycle, man.
Bikes have terrible ground planes. I don't have a full dresser or anything like that, so there's nowhere to put one. It ain't happening.
Okay, I was gonna say, just zip ties and Velcro.
Just Velcro it on. Just make it happen.
Just Velcro the radio, and then the antenna. Just zip tie it zip tie to the exhaust. There you go.
Exactly.
Pull a ground strap.
I love that story from Tim Tam. I'm gonna call him. He's actually in our Discord. So thanks for that, Tim Tam. I appreciate that. That was an interesting story. It's really sad when people run away, but it's really good when good folks, check in on people that look like they might be in a bad situation. So glad you guys did that. And then I saw N6ETR Dan. I think that's Dan that had the DX
Commander
that crashed down on the fence. Yeah.
The epic fail. We need to find that picture. Where's that picture at? Make it everybody's background right now.
No, don't do that to Dan.
Poor
In fact,
guy.
we should ask Dan if he got a replacement chunk of fiberglass for that. But he had a good point about making sure you got the right kind of extinguishers.
Yeah.
Mostly for the home, an ABC one is good. And that's usually fine. You're not going to be dealing with like weird fuels and stuff like that where you might need some foam or I know there's other types out there, but
yeah, that was actually I don't even know how to say this. Zeg Dog
That's
Han.
the G Dog. That's
The G Dog. Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
See, maybe I am old, Connor. The G Dog Han. He posted the thing about the right type of fire extinguisher. That's a really good point. He did actually. I think he just joined our Discord. Thanks for joining.
Oh my my god, you did.
Oh yeah, you're right. I
hilarious.
got it backwards. Dan was talking about the Ranger Station.
That's a friend of mine.
Yeah.
He's interested
Veg
in
dog.
getting his license.
Oh,
The
is he?
Veg
Good.
dog.
Veg dog
Yeah,
Han.
he's interested in getting his license. So.
Good. That's awesome. So yeah. It's I know when I was in the Navy, we had purple K powder, PKP
Yep.
extinguishers, which still exist. There's most fire. Hi, my name's Jim. Let me rewind. Most airports still have a lot of PKP, but it's highly corrosive. You do not want to discharge that thing inside of an aircraft. And I flew on P3s in the Navy. And you don't want that on the inside. It's good for putting out fires on the outside, but man, you're gonna wreck the electronics in those planes.
We've been talking about all this. We should get Mike, or I forget the other guy's call sign in the Air Force. You guys have seen the videos where they fill the hangars full of foam?
Yeah,
Just
well,
all the way to the brim?
now there's one of those class action lawsuits about AFFF.
Oh.
It's aqueous film forming foam. That's what it is. We had AFFF as well when we always did our aircraft crash firefighter training stuff. We had to spray that stuff all over the place, and the regular base firefighters would teach us how to do it, but we had to know how to run it if we needed, for whatever reason. You always have at least 3 levels of people that are able to run that stuff because somebody gets injured, whatever, so that was always fun. But now that's under litigation, but they still use it because it's so dang effective.
Yeah. It's a
so.
suppression technique. So.
Yep. Yeah, lay a big blanket.
It's not necessarily an extinguisher. It's a suppression technique more than anything.
Yeah.
Because most people take, like for example, wildland firefighting. Most of the time, you're not attacking the fire right away. You're doing your best to suppress the growth of the fire. So that's why you see those massive fire lines cuts. Most people think, oh, they're out there fighting fires. No, most of the time, they'll drop retardant, but they're not dropping it onto what's burning. They're dropping it a mile ahead to, do whatever they need. Whether it's protect a house, protect a farm, whatever they're trying to do, protect their operations, whatever. So.
Yep.
Well, that was really weird. We stayed on topic during the entire Zoom chat. That never happens.
Oh man!
What are we doing?
What's wrong with us?
Well, we'll stay on a positive note, and say thanks to everybody who stayed and hung out on YouTube, and everybody who checked in on the repeater. We've got an awesome show set up for next week, so I hope everybody joins in. And if you're looking for more information, you can check us out at 2metercrew.net or pop into our Discord. There's a link in the description there on YouTube. And I'll say 7-3 to everybody. Hope you all have a good night. Big thanks to Jim, KJ6FNP, for the presentation. Appreciate it, Jim.
My pleasure.
7-3, y'all.
Bye-bye.